Support Pro Play Games on Patreon.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy Yeehaw Yadam back with some more Battle Spirits content. In this video series, we're going to be going over George and Fernando's game from the locals tournament that happened last week, where George is playing some sort of dragon red aggro deck versus what Fernando is playing is more of an aggressive white version. I know that you saw the red-white elephant version from the last video, but I think Fernando just went ahead and tweaked his deck and made it a little bit lower to the ground to keep up with the aggressive nature of the game. So George went first, opening up with a Nexus. Nexus are very important, starting with the Volcanic Canyon, which is going to go ahead and let him ramp up his draw phase while cycling through his hand and getting him to get more creatures early on. Fernando starts his turn with a very explosive opener where he summons the Heavy Tank Curiosity, the heaviest card in his hand most probably, and follows that up with a quick automatic gunner. Now the automatic gunner coming down for free is absolutely broken. That card comes down, just takes a life, and that's already just a quick little trade from both players. But by swinging early, just like Fernando went ahead and did, you do inherently ramp George to more cores. And let's see what he can do with those cores. He goes ahead and summons immediately a Rain Eagle, followed by a Divine Halberd Dragon Arc, placing cores on both to go ahead and let them stay between the phases. Now the Rain Eagle is basically a vanilla, just an aggressive one drop, where the Divine Halberd Dragon Arc allows itself to be having an effect that says neither player's life can be reduced by an attack from a spirit that has 2,000 or lower battle. So it's kind of like a protective defensive card that kind of houses Fernando's deck. He's going to have to invest pretty heavily onto his spirits in order to let them attack through the 2,000 battle power threshold. Now he keeps the Rain Eagle in a unrested position just so that it can block the automatic gunner if Fernando wanted to go and invest cores to contest the Dragon Arc. Now back to Fernando's turn, he didn't ramp any life, so he is still behind by 2 cores. Now let's see just how much that matters in the grand scheme of things. So this is going to have to be a very important turn where Fernando's going to have to punish the maybe not slow start that George had, but definitely a weaker start than Fernando initially had. With his 5 cores at this time, he has to explode here. Let's see. He's going to follow up the automatic gunner with what seems to be an Odin. No, that's a Buffalong Bill. Now, Buffalong Bill is usually a more defensive option, which is the exact opposite of what you want to see from Fernando at this point in time. Buffalong Bill, if you guys don't know, Buffalong Bill says that when this spirit blocks, it goes ahead and returns spirits of your opponent's side that cost 5 or fewer to their hand. But if you are summoning it and trying to use it as a option to clear the Dragon Arc, again, because the Dragon Arc has such a defensive ability, then you're kind of in a weird spot. Oh, seems like there was a little takesies backsies. You know, this is new game. Locals would take it a little bit chill, so it seems he did decide to go for the Odin. Odin is going to go ahead and he's going to have to sack his automatic gunner to really pump up his Odin, which will let him go ahead and push through the Dragon Arc. Now I think George could have defended with the Rain Eagle, or no, I'm sure that he used Odin's effect to bounce and then declare an attack, so it's pushing George all the way down to, I believe, 2 cores. Let's see what he does from here. Now that was, and what it was a very good turn for Fernando. He kind of dealt with the floodgate-esque effect of the Dragon Arc, but he had to use his entire turn and all of his cores in order to deal with it. This gives a lot of tempo right back to George, that if he's able to maintain it with all his creatures, he can even punch over the Odin and gain board control very, very quickly. So he goes ahead and plays Big Bang Energy. Now Big Bang Energy is a magic card that states, during this turn, all Star Dragon Spirit cards in your hand have a cost equal to your life total. Holy guacamole, that card sounds broken. So for a total of 2 cores, he's able to reduce the cost of every single spirit in his hand significantly, since he's all the way down to 2 cores in life. So he's going to be summoning every big Spirit Dragon for a cost of 2. Let's see how many Spirit Dragon George just has in his hand. So with that effect now being in place, he's going to go ahead and bring down, I want to say the hammer, but I'm just waiting for him to summon a card. So we're just kind of pausing here until he decides which Star Dragon to summon. Hopefully he has the Supernova Dragon Siege Worm Nova. That guy's a mouthful, but his art looks really darn cool. And it doesn't seem like he has that one. He went ahead and summoned what I believe to be a Divine Mars Dragon Ares Dragoon. And then he does follow it up with the Siege Worm Nova. Now, these are just humongous bodies. Humongous dragons. Now, the Siege Worm Dragon Nova has an abundance of effects. If you can name an effect, that card has it. So he has an Ascend of 6 cost and more. He has a level 1, 2, and 3. So basically he can Flash Awaken, and he states when summoned. When this spirit performs the Ascension, using a spirit with the Siege Worm in its card name, you may place a Soul Core into the Void. If you do, place cores from your Void into your life until you have 5 life. So he's going to go ahead and basically full heal if he wants to. And I think he can do that when summoned and also when this spirit attacks. So very, very strong card. So all that tempo that Fernando had given George, he can go ahead and transform it into creatures or spirits, and these spirits are going to go ahead and allow him to get value, and as always, the cores will decide our fate. And he just turns everything sideways here, and that's just going to be the end of the game. There's just no way that he can come back from that board. So he's just going to destroy the board, swing basically 4 separate attacks, and then the game just immediately over. So you can just see how quickly the game can change in Battle Spirits. What often seems to be like the more correct play, in a game like this where each attack counts for, it doesn't matter if you hit for 1,000 or if you hit for 10,000, each attack counts. So most people, all these aggro decks that exist, just like in last week's video, it seems easy conceptually to just summon a bunch of little weenies, have the weenies turn sideways, and then immediately win the game. But by doing so, you ramp your opponent. If your opponent has big cards like the Siege Worm Nova and you're able to heal, then you're in a super duper good spot. Now, it may have been a Comet Dragon Sungrazer, but it was just, again, it's really tough for me to tell, especially with these arts. I'm still relatively new to the Battle Spirits Saga game, so hopefully that was a Dragon Ares Dragoon as opposed to a Dragon Sungrazer. I don't necessarily know what difference that would have made, but yeah, big dragons, baby. Big dragons. So again, I do think that Fernando does have to be the one on the play here. He has to be on the driver's seat in order to potentially win this game. See if he agrees with me. It seems as though the way that he's posturing and grabbing his cards, it may seem like he will be on the play, and so he is. He's going to go ahead and summon the little fish. I'm a big fan of little fish. So Bullet Ray comes down, and this is a very just big vanilla. He's huge, man. Bullet Ray comes down for a cost of 2 cores, and then 1 or he put 2 soul cores on it to go ahead and give it a boosted power of 5,000. So he's basically a very defensive vanilla that can come down early. So if George wants to go ahead and attack without losing his spirit, he has to beat a power threshold of 5,000 at this point in time, which, by the looks of it, I don't think that's something that he'd be willing to do. I don't think he wants the early aggression. I think he wants to build up a board and then combo the opponent out, take a lot of hits. So I think what Fernando wants to do is stall the game out in a way that kind of lets him take all the life in one turn, as opposed to like chip damage. Chip damage seems like it's going to be the exact opposite of what you want to do versus George's deck, as that card, Big Bang Energy, is just going to let him get too much value. Now let's see if George just has the exact cards that he needs. Let's see if he opens up a Nexus. He seems to open up a Nexus every game. Man's a little sacky, if you will. Speaking of, just draw the Nexus forehead. And he's thinking about it, but he's going to plays down that Volcanic Canyon. Yep, let it rip. So starting off with the Nexus, and then the Rain Needle. Man, Rain Needle coming on. So it's basically the same opener that George had in the first game, just a little bit more accelerated by the fact that he went second this time. He's gonna follow up the Bullet Ray with an automatic gunner, and then with I believe that's one of the Sentinel cards. Give me 1 sec to verify what that card's called. Yeah, Satellite Falcon comes down, and it's just a bunch of basically free costed creatures, and now free in quotation marks, because those cards always need to have a soul core on them in order to be able to stay in the multiple phases of the game. He goes ahead and summons the Mist. Mist is going to go ahead and bounce a spirit of a cost of, I believe, 7 or less, and by doing so, he goes ahead and puts himself in the aggressive position. But this is exactly what I was trying to talk about earlier. Now that Fernando went ahead and swung the game in what seems to be his favor, he ramped George up 4 cores, and if George just has the Big Bang Energy, he's about to explode on Fernando once again. So let's see where he goes from here. And then it seems like he's contemplating, playing some sort of card. I think he drew from Volcanic Canyon the bonus card. He's going to go ahead and drop the Star Blessed Draw, which the parallel or alternate art of that card is an absolute beauty. He summons back the Rain Needle because Rain Needle is just coming down for free. Again, free in quotations with the 1 core. He has 2 red sources at this point in time. Because of the 2 red sources, he's going to be able to reduce the cost of this following card by 2. And I'm assuming this card is going to be Big Bang Energy. Just by the way, he put 4 to the side. Or will it be a creature? Okay, pointing at the Rain Needle. Grabbing the cores. And eventually we've decided to summon a character. So he goes ahead and summons quite a couple dragons, but definitely one of them has to be... It's really tough to tell, but I do believe that that's the Siege Worm once again. Siege Worm Nova, he's going to be sacking his characters just to have enough core energy to be able to put it onto the character. Now that's going to go ahead and, yep, that is the Siege Worm. He's going to go and heal all the way up to 5, so again, devastating for Fernando, as the Siege Worm is going to be able to basically restart the game for George, and then on attack he's going to be able to select any number of opponent spirits with a combined total power of 10,000 or lower and destroy them, which is basically the entire board for Fernando. So full heal plus board wipe seems pretty good, and we're contemplating going into the attack step. I don't really know what George is thinking at this point. He doesn't have any cores available to him. And yeah, basically just attack, clear the board, take an energy, and you leave Fernando at 3 cards in hand, which is the overcommit from these aggro decks, or he just stays standing, question mark? Okay, understandable. Understandable, George. So it's going to go back to Fernando's turn. He does have to keep the upkeep of every single spirit while then only gaining 1 core, so he effectively only has 2 cores to work with this turn. But again, the white deck just has so much natural aggression in terms of low costed cards that those 2 cores can easily translate to potentially 2 more spirits, right? 2 free costed spirits. The thing is, even if he did have another Valkyrie, Valkyrie will not be able to bounce the Dragon Nova, the Siege Worm, so then he's still going to be in a tough position. He's going to go ahead and up the Bullet Ray by another core, making it a 5,000 vanilla. But that doesn't necessarily fix the issue that we're in. If Fernando goes ahead and swings, George can go ahead and let most of those swings go through, decide when to block with his dragon, and then let him ramp to the point that he feels comfortable, and then come back on the crackback with the very powerful cards available to him. I think at this point they're just kind of like talking to each other. Again, they're friends from a long time, locals, just having some fun playing with the new Battle Spirit cards, testing out the goo. And yeah, I wouldn't like to be in Fernando's seat at this point in time. It looks really tough from this position. He's going to go ahead and swing with the Mist. Mist is going to ramp. Automatic Gunner. Will it ramp? He lets it go through again. Bullet Ray getting in there. And we'll hold back the Falcon. No need to swing with the Falcon. We need some defense, it seems. So we're going to go ahead and start our turn back. We have a ton of cores on George's side. He's going to go ahead and pitch for Volcanic Canyon. Double draw, discard 1. I don't think if I mentioned it, but again, the Nexus that George has basically lets him get a secondary draw every single draw step, while then you discard a card. So it just creates so that you can go ahead and filter your deck a little bit better and just curate your hand to what you necessarily want. And here's where things get a little crazy. So we have a Galaxy Dragon Andromedios coming down to the board. And we're finally going to swing with our Dragon Nova. Dragon Nova is going to go ahead and trigger effect, destroy the entire board, take a life. And then if George wanted to, he could then swing in with his other 2 very powerful dragons. But there just doesn't seem a point because he was able to stick a Dragon Arc, which is going to go ahead and floodgate him. He has the Andromedios, which is going to go ahead and become a blocker, and then he has the Siege Worm, which can just always destroy the board every single turn, which is now looking to be a very, very difficult position to be in from the white player. White, though, not giving up. We're going to go ahead and summon a couple dudes. Going to go ahead and play our Duck, which I'm forgetting his name right now, but the Duck comes down. We're going to go ahead and play another 2 spirits. What seems to be Frost Tree Goddess, I think. And he's going to go ahead and have to sack a card just in order to keep core energy alive to move through the phases once again. And he's going to go ahead and declare an attack. And then I guess he's just reminding Fernando about the fact that the Dragon Arc is going to go ahead and stop most of these attacks, as he will be able to stop anything with a cost of 2 or lower from declaring. So he's just, they're deciding, did you really want to go ahead and sack the core for that character, or did you want to keep it as a character on the field? And he decides that the writing is on the wall. There is no way to really get through that. He has the Star Blast in the trap zone or in the burst zone, but unfortunately he doesn't have the cores to pay for the quadruple draw that it has, and with that, the Siege Worm was just able to provide too much tempo in George's side. So if you guys like that video, make sure to leave a like down below, and as always, if you like this sort of content, don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see y'all on the next one. Later.